Hi, and welcome everyone to our second webinar today. We're going to wait for a couple more seconds because there's still some people just about to join, and we're going to want to welcome them as well. All right, seems like they were able to join. So yeah, for those of you who already attended our last webinar, welcome back. Today's speaker is going to be Margarita, our mining solution specialist, and myself. I'm Benedict, CEO and founder of CyanoGuard. The topic today is going to be a deep dive into our technology and how our solution really works. And before I just started, we had a little poll for you that you could answer. So just to go out where everybody's coming from. So most of you are joining from Northern America, but I see we also have people from Africa and Asia joining, which is nice. And all of you have experience with cyanide measurements personally, which is really great because I think this makes the discussion and the questions much more productive afterwards. And yeah, it's also a very nice picture with the if we look at the different technologies that you have experience in, it's very much on the traditional side, both of the colorimetric and the potentiometric endpoint, as well as the automated analyzers. And this is something that we discussed about last time. This time it's going to be more about alternative solutions, especially ours. And yeah, and how you're also involved in the cyanide optimization project, which is great because this is sort of the bigger goal that we're trying to achieve. And yeah, also 50-50, how we use looking for an alternative cyanide monitoring solution, and others are just interested in our technologies. We really appreciate this, and we hope we can answer some of your questions. So with these great poll results, which I think is a really great base, I would like to transition over to our agenda for today. Yeah, as I already mentioned, following our last webinar, many of those of you who participated last time asked whether we could do a more in-depth session really on our technology and the innovation behind it. And that's what we're going to do today. We'll start off with giving you a bit of background into why we've built the CyanoGuard system, why we think this solution is really critical to the gold mining industry. And after that, my colleague Margarita will walk you through the technology and the individual components of our solution. After that, I'm going to do a live demo of the analyzer and the online platform. And before we head over then to the Q&A session, just like last time, Margarita will be looking at some of the benefits and advantages that we have been reported back from the users that have been using our solution on their mine side. For the Q&A session afterwards, it's just like last time. If you have any question at any time during the webinar, please feel free to submit them. How you do that is there's a button in your Zoom application, the bottom which says Q&A, and there you can submit your question, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible at the end. And yeah, with that, I would like to go to the next slide and give you a bit of background why we built the CyanoGuard system and the CyanoSmart analyzer. So a couple of years back, we've decided, or we came to terms that there needs to be an alternative solution when it comes to cyanide monitoring. When we learned about the many issues that there are for gold mines when it comes to cyanide. First, in the past years, if we look at the cyanide consumption, gold miners require more and more cyanide, and there's certainly one of the reasons for that, the declining ore quality or declining ore bodies, so that, you know, require more cyanide because there's more other metals that consume the cyanide, and often there is not a process in place to take care of this consumption, so people just use an excess of cyanide. And this wouldn't be a problem if cyanide were cheap, which is unfortunately not. Because at the same time, the cyanide prices have been drastically rising, like as far as I know, more than 20% every year, which makes the issue for miners of using too much cyanide even worse. So they need to make sure they use the right amount of cyanide so they don't have huge costs. On a more extended stakeholder level, on a global basis, the scrutiny, the regulations, and the demand for transparency when it comes to cyanide usage have grown. And this forces mines and operators to look for novel solutions to improve their cyanide monitoring. The real turning point for us was when we actually went to a couple of the mines and surveyed and analyzed some of the technologies that we're using and their impact. And when we witnessed how inefficient and unreliable these traditional cyanide monitoring systems and methods sometimes were, that's when we decided we want to create a solution which is not only easier, simpler, and more reliable, but which actually helps the mines to overcome the crucial cyanide challenge. The goal of our solution is to help mines to reduce, first of all, their cyanide consumption, optimize their recovery rates, and achieve a more sustainable and efficient cyanide control. And how this works, how our solution looks like, this will my colleague Margarita will now show you and walk you through our solution.
Thank you, Benedict. Dear ladies and gentlemen, our solution consists of 3 parts. The first one is cartridges, which contain our proprietary molecule. They are single-use and change color from orange to violet after the contact with the cyanide. The resulting color would vary depending on the cyanide concentration in the sample. The second are our handheld CyanoSmart analyzers. They are about the same size as a smartphone. They are also lightweight and can be carried anywhere on site. After the sample has been pressed through the cartridge is inserted into the analyzer, which instantaneously displays the resulting cyanide concentration on the screen. And it also sends the measurement, its time, and GPS location to CyanoIO online platform. Speaking about the cloud-based platform, all results are getting stored there immediately after the measurement has been done. The data can be visualized and the process controlled and optimized in real time. Now I will tell you about each part of our solution in a bit more detail. And I start with the cartridges. As I've already mentioned, our cartridges have unique chemosensor and are completely hazard-free. So there are no usage precautions required. They do not require any pre-filtering of the samples. The chemosensor has the least number of interferences than any other test in the market. In particular, it is not susceptible to copper and chloride interferences and is less susceptible to pH of the solution, as the sample vials standardize the pH before measurements. Cartridges can be customized according to client's needs, from very low levels, starting at 0.1 ppm, which have high resolution, to much higher concentration ranges up to 500 ppm and above upon request. They do not require any special disposal considerations, and we are taking them back for recycling. After the sample has been pressed through the cartridge changes color depending on the cyanide concentration. It should then be inserted into CyanoSmart analyzer, which I will show you on the next slide. The CyanoSmart device analyzes spectrophotometrically this color change and provides the user with a quantitative result. At the same time, the device obtains the user ID, GPS location, and time of the measurement, and transmits it to our cloud platform. The device comes pre-calibrated, which means it has an internal calibration against a known standard, and real samples are measured with reference methods. Wrong measurements are identified automatically and ignored. The possibility of a human error is very, very low, for the simple reason that the process includes a minimum number of steps and also is fully standardized. Our devices do not require any maintenance or repair. We rent them out, replace them regularly with the new ones, and also provide spare devices so that you could substitute the broken one right away before you order a replacement. The CyanoIO online platform allows to monitor all measurements in real time and visualize the resulting data set on a synchronized map and a table. The data can also be displayed as a control chart or as a run chart, which includes upper and lower control limits with an average line. The data can be exported in Excel, PDF, CSV. The management platform can be integrated into your existing automated production control system in case you have one. Speaking about the architecture of our solution, which I'm going to present you on this slide, as you can see, it allows you to do the testing anywhere on site and also monitor the results in the real time, even remotely. So the manager knows exactly when and where each test has been made and can adjust the cyanide input accordingly. The operator cannot manipulate the results or indicate them post factum. And now I would like to pass the word to Benedict, who will do a live demo so that you can see how our solution actually works.
Thank you, Margarita. So I'm just going to walk you through the process that a user will do. I'm not handling any cyanide solutions today, but I'll show you the entire process. So when you do the test, the first thing that you do is you take one of the cartridge boxes, like you see in the picture, you open them, have them here, take out one of the cartridges, which is when it's fresh and ready to use, it's red. Then you also take out one of the syringes that we deliver with the cartridges, and you take 1 milliliter, which is the contents of the syringe, and connect it to the cartridge. Of course, you would remove the stoppers first and we'll press it through. What then happens is that depending on the concentration of cyanide, the color of the sensor zone changes from red, orangish to violet. And this is basically the whole manual testing. What you do then is you take your analyzer, you open the back latch, you put your cartridge in, you hear when it's locked in, click, you close the latch again, you turn on the analyzer, you select the CyanoGuard application, to start up, and then on the first screen, you can select the range that you want to measure in, because we support several ranges, so you have the best resolution for your specific application. In our case, we want to measure in the range from 10 to 100 ppm. We press measure concentration. Takes a few seconds, and the result is 42 ppm of free cyanide, and that's the entire process. There is no additional step or anything necessary. You just need to press it through. You need to collect the sample before with the sample vial. And that's it. And you see, this is really something which is very quick, which you can do within 1 or 2 minutes if you're trained, even faster. What happens here is that in real time, this result is not only displayed to the operator, but also uploaded to the online platform, which I'm going to show you next. Before we go to the online platform, I quickly want to show you what other functionality this device has. Let's go back to the main screen. So there's 2 other applications that I would like to highlight. So the first one is the instruction application. This is something that we have received a lot of good feedback for, because it's basically the entire instructions in a visual way. So even if you don't want to spend all the time reading, because sometimes the instructions, written ones, that can be a bit difficult. So we made it fully visual, which you have all what you need, the entire steps, the entire testing procedure you have available in a visual way. Additionally, you also have a training video where we walk the operator through the testing process. This is all natively available in your language, for example, in Spanish or in Russian, as ever you need it. And the last functionality I would like to show you is the EVA messenger. This is basically a support messenger, instant messaging system that if you ever have any issue with testing, or if you have a question, or your operator needs technical support, you can directly get in touch with us, with our technical team. We will be right there and help you with whatever problems or issues you have. And that's the entire functionality of the Cyano Smart Analyzer. Now I'm going over to the online platform. For that, I'm going to share my screen real quick. So now we are on the login page of the Cyano.io platform. This is it's an online platform. You receive credentials, so now I'm going to log in with my own credentials. You also have this available in other languages as well. So it takes a moment to load the available data when you first start up. But once it has loaded up, then I can show you all the measurements. So let's start with this section with the table functionality here first. So let's start with the last measurement. So this is the measurement that I've just done today. About 2-3 minutes ago, concentration was 42 ppm of free cyanide. You have the device tag and the location. The other functionality, what you can do here, of course, you can browse through all of your entries. What we want to do now, we want to filter some of the measurements. So we're going to look for all of the measurements that were performed by the device that I was just using, which is ITS 139, and then you see all of them. Additionally, what you can do, you can then export data that you selected to one of the formats that Margarita already indicated, be it Excel or CSV or PDF format. And that's the table view if you want to really look at the data. Additionally, you have the map view down here. And so we're now going to zoom in on the measurements that we've done in our lab. So here you can see the Lake of Zurich where we are based. So these are a couple of the measurements that are now just selected in the upper table and are now displayed here. With, you see, this is where we are located, this is our area. And here, let's look at this measurement first. Maybe this one. Yeah. So here you have the device ID. You have the date when it was measured, the concentration, the ppm, basically the same information, but displayed on a map. Of course, you can select another base map. Here we use the Google Maps satellite map, but if you have any other map with the GPS data as a layer, then you can use that. And these are the two most used functionalities that we've seen so far, which you can access here in the dashboard, which is also your starting page. Then if you want to have a full screen view of the map, you can click here, which is basically the lower frame that I've just showed you as an entire screen. Additionally, you have also the table as an entire screen. And the next thing, what I want to show you is the chart. So what you have here is basically a historical representation of your cyanide measurement values. So here we now have displayed all the data that we have in the system, but you can of course also filter that. So only display results from a certain location or from a certain time frame or a certain spot in your process. It automatically calculates the average, and you can select, okay, you want to zoom in at the data from, let's say, beginning of this year, or you just want to look at the last 3 months. But let's try to look at the entire year, so back to summer of last year. And what you can do additionally here, you can draw the range that you want your samples to be in. This at the moment, this is just a visual representation, but you can also link this to alerts, for example. So you can say, okay, if a result is measured in real time out of bounds, then I want a notification. How you do that is you select the range here. So now we want to select between 50 and 150 ppm, and then we get to this range here. And so every time we would receive a cyanide level, then we would get an alert, and we can also see when these ranges were. that's basically the most important functionality. Of course, there are two other things that I haven't shown you yet, but I'm happy to show you in case I don't know if you're interested in an individual meeting. So when you operate several devices, there you have access to device management, which shows you, okay, which operator is using it, what's the battery level, where is it located, is there any issue with it? And the last function, which is very helpful once you start using our solution for a longer time, is the insights function. This works once you have more than 1,000 data points generated by our solution. Then our algorithm has enough data to learn and to analyze your data proactively, and then can tell you, for example, if there's an anomaly based on the data that you've seen. So, for example, that there is in a certain location, there's too much or too little cyanide, and can also then address some of the causes because of the GPS locations that are stored with each measurement. With that, I would like to conclude my demo and hand the word back to Margarita, which will present you some of the advantages and benefits that users have reported back to us.
Yes, I will now briefly summarize the benefits of our solution. Among the main technical advantages are, as I've already mentioned before, much lower susceptibility to errors and interferences than any other commercially available solution. Our solution has lower variability as the chemosensor is more sensitive, and it also has lower detection limits. No usage or disposal precautions, repair or maintenance are needed. And it is also a plug and play kind of solution, which means you don't need to make any changes to your production process whatsoever before you start exploiting it. And your employees don't have to undergo any extensive training before they are prepared to use our product. As you've already seen yourself during the demo, the solution is very intuitive. We provide, obviously, all the necessary instructions and onboarding, but it would take no more than a couple of hours for your whole team to get ready to launch. There are also very obvious operational benefits, such as no capital expenditures involved, as well as immediate positive impact on your operational and financial performance. Speaking of which, you can expect to lower your cyanide consumption by 15%, which is an average result for our clients. And at the same time, you can also somewhat improve your gold recovery, because from our experience, even those mines who use excessive amounts of cyanide still do have periods of cyanide under delivery in their production due to poor process control. And last but not least, you can cut your detox reagent costs by 20% on average, which is a result of both lower cyanide consumption as well as lower industrial water usage. So an extra benefit is that you can make your overall ecological footprint much smaller. To get a financial estimate of how much money you can save using our solution, please visit our website, where we have recently published a financial value calculator. And at this stage, I would like to thank you for your attention. And once again, I invite you to submit your questions if you haven't done it yet. And we will then proceed to the Q&A session. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Margarita. Yeah, so I see that a couple of questions are already coming in. We'll give it another, let's say, 2 minutes before we head over to the Q&A session. So all of you still have time if there were any questions raised that you want to now type in. Feel free. Very good. So we're gonna get started with the first question. We grouped them a bit towards the individual components. So we're gonna start with the cartridges first. So one of the first questions that we would like to answer is, what are the sample composition requirements? So we actually have very, very low requirements. So literally any liquid sample, even if it still contains organics, you can analyze. If the solid content is above 10%, then we deliver you special inline filters that you can just put between the syringe and the cartridge, and it will directly filter it out. So there's no additional filtering step, like for example with the titration involved, where you need to filter large amounts and need to wait until they drip through the paper filter or which filter system you use. And these cartridge or these inline filters, they are suitable for up to 60% of 6% solid content. Then the next question was whether there is, for example, considerations for salinity of the sample, if that would impact the test results when you use our system. We've done some testing with high saline test results, and especially in the higher concentration, they do not undermine the accuracy of the results. Next question is something that we already mentioned in the presentation, but I'm happy to do that again, is what are the interferences? So I think the most important difference to existing systems is that we do not have interferences, for example, with copper or chloride, which often have an issue with both a colorimetric and a potentiometric endpoint iteration, because they delay the endpoint. The only thing that we have an interference with, but at a higher stage, are free sulfide ions, which is interference, and it's only important for us to know about them because we can then deliver you a special precipitation kit, which is basically an iron chloride salt, which precipitates the sulfide ions prior to measurement. The next question is, what is the ppm limit that can be analyzed? With our cartridges, currently we can serve up on the standard basis, we can serve up to 500 ppm, but if there are special ranges, we can customize that. The reason why we would like to customize the ranges is usually you measure in a certain spot in a certain part of the process in a certain range, and the more narrow that range is, the higher the resolution and the higher the reliability. So it goes up to 500 ppm without any trouble, and everything above that we would need to see on an individual basis, but we can adapt that. The next question is also something that came out last time. What are the disposal considerations for the spent cartridges? Just gonna dive in a little bit on what the cartridge actually contains. So this is a modified vitamin B12 molecule, which might not mean a lot to most of you, but why I'm mentioning this is because vitamin B12 is of biological origin. So it's completely non-hazardous. And due to the high sensitivity, you only need a very low amount of sample, just 1 milliliter, and it needs a very low amount of cyanide to react. So after there is very low cyanide inside the cartridge, so you can dispose that with usual consideration applicable in your region. But what we like actually to encourage is that you do not throw the cartridges away after you use them, but when you receive a fresh cartridge from us, that you put them back into the package and ship them back to us, because we can recycle them. The next question was if we have carried out any inter-laboratory calibrations to check the accuracy of our self-calibration facility. Yes, we've actually done that. So we work both with labs in the UK and Scandinavia, as well as the governmental labs here in Switzerland, which have benchmarked our tests against their own standards. So it was basically a double-blind testing where they had a set of samples, and they measured them, and they would see if they would recover the same amount. And although our accuracy is ±5%, in most of the cases we were better. So we are usually in the range of 2 to 3%. But of course, with the additional challenges that come when you do testing in a mining field, the interval that we communicate is ±5%. So yeah, we have done that because it's very important that you have the external confirmation as well. Then I would like to go to the next group of questions that we received. It's about the device. First question is whether our real-time upload works anywhere. Yes, it actually works anywhere as long as there's a Wi-Fi or a mobile phone reception. If there's nothing of both, we can actually help you set up either a long-range Wi-Fi or a VHF network, which our device would support. The second question regarding the device was, why is it less prone to errors? For our Cyanide monitoring system, there's little to no user input required, so there's no handling or manipulation or any more complex or error-prone tasks. Everything is standardized, and additionally, there's no calibration or preparation of reagents required. Additionally, our algorithm on the device is programmed in the way that it spots, for example, if you would have an interference with sulfide, which is in some cases sulfide can appear due to any contamination, and the operator might not be aware of it. And our algorithm would then recognize sulfide in the cartridge because to a certain color change, would then tell the operator that they need to redo the measurement or get in touch to remove the sulfide prior to testing. Yeah, that was regarding devices. So now the next question group is about the platform. So the first question is, the chart that we displayed had many peaks and valleys. Will using CyanoGuard level the chart for more consistent cyanide usage? It's a very good question. This is indeed the chart that I showed was from our internal testing. So that's basically all the results that we use for different stages. Also, for example, for food testing, which is in very low concentrations. And then we had some samples from mines that we also tested in our lab. So this is just our personal lab view, which is not the representation of a process. We unfortunately don't have a gold mine in our lab where we could, show you the process. So yes, if you would normally look at the data of a mine, which I unfortunately cannot show you at the moment due to privacy considerations, but that would actually look more like a line, especially when you start using the system. Then you have less peaks and valleys, and you have more for consistency. Because what we've seen in one mine that we done some testing at in Mexico is that they had a lot of very high differences between their own measurement and our measurement. They realized that they mostly underestimate their concentrations, and we've been testing, and they've been using our testing solution for a couple of weeks, and then we saw, okay, once you start implementing them, it starts to get a little more consistent. The next question regarding the platform is how many user accounts can access the platform simultaneously. So technically it's unlimited, so we can set up as many user accounts as you like. The basic package that we will be provided from scratch is includes 15 user accounts. The next question is whether you can access several mine sites at once because you're consulting several mine sites, or you work in a corporate function. Yeah, this is definitely possible. So you can not only see the ones of your own mine, if for example you're consulting several mines of a company, but also see all the ones in one function and compare them. Next question is which process control platforms we currently support. So we support the largest ones, which are, for example, ABV Ability, Siemens Thematic, or ThyssenKrupp's POLCID. If there are any other ones, that very specific ones, please reach out to us and we can get in touch with our software engineering integration team, and they will see what they can do for you. Yeah, I think that's about it to the platform. Yeah, now I think there's a couple of questions regarding our pilots and business left, so we still have about 5 minutes, so we're going to try to tackle as many of them as we can. So yeah, I think that's a really good one. How long does it usually take to implement the solution when you received it? And I think Margarita, maybe you want to say something about that.
Yeah, the training takes approximately 15 minutes per operator. So in a normal setup, the solution is up and running within 24 hours. There is obviously a preparation phase, so we would need to have your inputs, some technical inputs from your side. We would need to ship the product kit to your mine, and depending on where the mine is located, it can take up to 2 weeks probably. But otherwise, when it's already at the site, then it's like within 1 day you can proceed with the launch.
Thank you, Margarita. Yeah, the next question I think is a really good one considering the current situation. So how does it all work with the onboarding and the implementation and the pilots during the current COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, that's one is also for me, I assume. Yeah, we can do onboarding and support fully remotely, so there is no problem at all. Moreover, our solution itself, it doesn't imply any interactions and minimizes actually interactions between the people, because as soon as the operator has done the test, he doesn't need to bring it anywhere to the lab or whatever, and also doesn't need to input the data manually in some computers. So the results are transmitted to the online platform and can be accessed remotely by anyone.
Thank you, Margarita. I think we have time for one last question. And I think this is something about the pilot that you mentioned. We spoke about it more in detail in our last webinar, but this time I think it was a little short. So question is, how does the pilot actually work? Maybe you can share some of your experience with that.
Yeah, basically the goal of the pilot is to give our partner mine an opportunity, or partner mines an opportunity to test our solution in production settings. So to also see the benefits of our solution in practice. And as a first stage, we ask a mine to provide some basic technical information to us, so that we could set up the pilot and also customize the cartridges, because as we mentioned before in our presentation, depending on the ranges, the cartridges would have specific, specific characteristics. So afterwards, yeah, as soon as we know in which concentrations you measure cyanide, how at which spots you do it, how often a mine measures cyanide, we then agree on the pilot start and send the mine our product kit, which includes our devices and customized sets of cartridges. And then we also do the online introduction and onboarding for the team, which will be using CyanoGuard testing solution on the mine. And basically this is it. A mine could start using our product. We will provide an access to our online platform to the team members, and yeah, and a mine could finally be able to rely on the cyanide testing results when optimizing the production process. And we obviously provide all the necessary support during the pilot as well. The duration of the pilot is on average 4 weeks. Normally, this is sufficient for the mind to evaluate the obvious material benefits from using our solution. While its simplicity and convenience of use can be noticed already, I think, immediately after you even watch the demo. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margarita. And I think we're already approaching fast our 45-minute mark. And I think we were able to answer most of the questions. And if we missed any one of your question, don't worry, we'll reach out to you individually with your question and the answer, and you will definitely get an answer, so don't worry about that. Yeah, at this point, I would like to thank everyone for attending today, especially for all the great questions and sort of the interest in our technologies. Is great to see. And we hope you found the past 45 minutes helpful. And if you have any feedback or any suggestions or any future topics that you would like us to visit or host a discussion, please share it with us. You feel free to send it to our email, mining.solutions@cyanoguard.com. Like last time, we will share the recording of the webinar with you, as well as the slides in the following days. In the meantime, I would like to invite you to visit our website. We also have a blog which is growing every week with, I find it, quite helpful information. Additionally, we have more information available on the pilots as well as on the technology. So if you want to know more there, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to send that to you. Also, since I think a week now, we have our new financial benefit, the ROI calculator, where you can type in the parameters of your site and see what average benefits you could expect if you adopt a novel cyanide monitoring solution. With that, I would like to thank you again for attending. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing as many of you at our next webinar, which will be in August. With that, I wish you a great morning or great afternoon, evening, wherever you might be, and hope to catch up the next time in our webinar. Bye.